the Honourable Diane Evers.
Thank you, Madam President, for giving me this opportunity to address the 40th Parliament of the Legislative Council of Western Australia. I would like to acknowledge that we are standing on Whadjuk Noongar Boodja and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. And note that this land was never ceded. I would also like to acknowledge and support the comments by the Honourable Kerry Sanderson AC, Governor of Western Australia, in her opening address to this Parliament. It is a great honour and an incredible privilege to be able to take a seat in this esteemed chamber. This is something that I never really expected until late last year, when it became apparent to me that there was a very real chance that the Greens of WA might earn enough votes to once again claim a seat for the Southwest region. It is 8 years since we last had Greens representation in the Southwest, and much ground has been lost in this time, figuratively and literally. I am humbled by the road ahead and by the many people who have held this seat before me. My mentors in this role will include the previous members, Chrissy Sharp, Giz Watson, Paul Llewellyn, and most recently, Lynn McLaren. I admire their past contributions and look forward to their guidance in the future. In addition, I will have the experience of my colleagues, the Honourable Robin Chappell, MLC, Member for the Mining and Pastoral Region, and the Honourable Alison Zamon, MLC, Member for the North Metropolitan Region. With their support and guidance, I am certain that my colleague, the Honourable Tim Clifford, MLC, and Member for the East Metropolitan Region, and I will quickly learn the ropes to become effective members of this Parliament. You may notice that I'm working hard to manage the formalities of the English language used in this Parliament, and I pray that all of my esteemed members will afford me leniency when I neglect to speak properly or use colloquialisms that don't quite reflect my point as I would like to. I came to Australia as a 20-year-old from another place, and here I found my home. I have been a citizen for over 20 years, and I feel most fortunate to be here. So first, to the thank yous. I could not be here without the support and trust of my husband, Tony Evers. Back in August, he said to me, "If you're going to do this, don't go into it half-hearted." Not only did he give me encouragement, he gave me the next 6 months of his time to travel the 45,000 square kilometres of the region, reaching out to the more than 250,000 people, the 19 local governments, and the many individual communities. The Southwest region extends along the coast from Mandurah to Augusta and east to Bremer Bay, then inland to cover Jerramungup, Mount Barker, Rocky Gully, Boyup Brook, Collie, and Dwellingup, also taking in Margaret River, Manjimup, Denmark, and my hometown of Albany. Tony has stood by me through the past 29 years of our marriage, and I feel I can count on him for love and encouragement through my time in Parliament. My 4 adult children, Tia, Carl, Rose, Jessica, and her partner, Shane McNeese, will be there for me to offer encouragement and support to ensure that my mental and physical health is kept in good shape. Their love and strength will provide the rock that keeps me balanced and stable when under the enormous pressure that may come with being a member of Parliament. My family makes me whole. They are who I am doing this for. It is their generation that I hope will see lasting benefit from my time in Parliament. Benefits such as social equity and environmental stability. My thank yous must now extend to the incredible team of Greens members and supporters who got me to this position. From my local Albany group to the Southwest region and WA state group, even some support interstate. I thank all of you and cannot express how proud I feel to have your support and to be representing the Greens and the values we share. I would not be here without the work of each and every one of you. My thanks extends to each person who voted Green, especially those who took the chance and voted Green for the first time. I don't intend to let your voice go unheard. In particular, I'd like to thank my campaign manager, Donald Clark. He put his life on hold for 3 months to work tirelessly on the campaign, and even brought in his daughter, Sarah, to build the Facebook presence. His skills in managing people were greatly appreciated as he held the team together and moved us forward toward our success. His support was unwavering, and I am truly humbled by his contribution. I must also thank my 8 Lower House Greens candidates: David Rastrick, Jody Moffat, Luke O'Connell, Gordon Taylor, Callum Burwood, Andy Huntley, Aaron Blundell-Camden and Michael Baldock, and my second on the Upper House ticket, C.N. Harper. I must add comment and offer my great respect for Michael Baldock in particular, as it is through his valuable efforts over the past 8 years to keep the Greens membership of the Southwest informed and active, and over this time maintain a cohesive group who were able and willing to run such a strong campaign. His past work will not be forgotten. I would also like to thank Brenda Conakey, a good friend, who pulled the team together at the last moment to ensure that we had the highest likelihood of success on the day of the election. Throughout the campaign, I felt loved, respected, and supported. And this made my work easy. The Southwest region is populated by caring, thoughtful people, and I feel honored to represent them. Well, that's it. That winds up my thank yous. Now, to get on to the nitty-gritty, my plans for the next 4 years. I would start with a bit of background on myself. Some people know their calling early in life, and I knew mine. I was born to be an accountant. I loved math from very early in my life and was working the odds of nickel and dime poker by the time I was 5. At 12, I went to the school library and looked up exactly what an accountant did to confirm my choice of career. I was convinced. Counting money for a job seemed perfect. Some of you may be familiar with Monty Python's sketch where an accountant wants to become a lion tamer for some excitement and then realizes it would be better to remain an accountant. For me, as an accountant, this is the best of all their work. And there is another accounting joke, although I cannot remember where to give credit. It pictures a person talking to a clairvoyant, and as she gazes into the crystal ball, looks up at the person and says, "I'm sorry, but you were an accountant in all your past lives." And this is how it feels. Now, I illustrate this thought to demonstrate to each of you sitting in this room that I am a numbers person. And I hope I have some companionship in this regard to balance out those people who rely on words to tell a story or paint a picture. They say that some people see the world in colors or smells or sounds. Well, I see it in numbers. And I am here to use those numbers to see that the government of Western Australia is run efficiently and effectively to ensure that all people are looked after, to ensure that our natural environment is cared for in perpetuity, and to see that our economy becomes robust and is resilient to the outside influences of climate change, globalization, and the influences of individuals or corporations that try to undermine the legitimate processes of government. My role here as a member of the Greens is to demonstrate that our policies, our aims and objectives have a sound economic base. I understand how budgets work. I understand how money can only be spent once. An individual, a corporation, or a state can expend only what it sources through revenue and supplemented by debt. But debt, which is paid back in the future, should only be drawn for investments that will return a benefit in the future. Using debt because we want pretty things now, or because we have mismanaged our recurrent revenue and committed to excessive and unnecessary current spending, is as wrong for a state as it is for an individual. Sound financial management entails being able to cover your current costs, then your necessary improvements. And following that, we can look at the pretty things, the luxuries, the bell towers, and the stadiums. As it stands, our current costs have ballooned. We have sizable interest payments to make, contracted construction costs in place, and distorted wage values, particularly in senior management. The only area that had been trimmed was government services. Over the past few years, most government departments have been losing staff to pay for excesses in spending on other projects. I welcome the recently announced inquiry into past spending, if only to ensure that the same mistakes are not repeated. Speaking from the Southwest region, we have lost significant employment in TAFE, the Agriculture Department, Department of Parks and Wildlife, in health services, our ports, our schools, policing, and the list goes on. The loss of people in these positions and the resultant loss of their families places additional strain on our communities that are already stressed by our slowing economy, from the end of the mining construction boom and from the increasing agricultural variability brought on by climate change. Our youth and other job seekers are left to fend for themselves in an economy that is doing everything possible to eliminate low-skilled, meaningful employment. People don't just need a job, they need meaningful employment. But I digress. My intent is to let everyone here in this room know that I will focus on the numbers side of all of our legislation. I will consider the economic impacts and consequences of our proposed legislation to see who are the winners, who are the losers, and who bears the cost. What principles are supported and which are rejected? Is the advantage in the short term or the long term? Each issue must have the economic consequences researched and detailed, not just for the immediate term, but for the future. When considering projects beyond our essential services of government, my mantra will be, invest in the projects that reduce our ongoing costs or in those that will bring in future revenue. Projects such as the renewable energy industry. Not only can we create affordable renewable energy systems now, but this technology will reduce our future operating costs and have substantially lower cleanup costs at the end of a life cycle when compared to fossil fuel energy production. As an added bonus, Australia, with our rich mineral resources and outstanding educational institutions should be able to create a manufacturing industry based on renewable technology. Talk about meaningful employment. Imagine being the person to develop and manufacture a better battery or more efficient solar collector. Australians have the ingenuity to do this. We simply must stop subsidizing polluting industries, and we must listen to the communities, such as Collie, who are faced with bearing the brunt of our previous lethargy by a government who failed to prepare for the phasing out of coal. Other sound financial investments are in our people. Better education and improved health are the key to a strong, resilient population. If you want to help people off drugs and out of unemployment, give them the education to understand and manage living in our increasingly complex world. Provide a healthcare system that prevents minor issues from growing bigger and addresses mental health issues with appropriate support. And increase the opportunities for people to find something better, such as work, sports, music, friendships, community. People who are healthy, both mentally and physically, when given the skills of a good education and access to high-quality further training, will be more likely to find or to create meaningful employment. In my previous position as state manager for the community-run organization Green Skills, we ran a series of Green Army programs giving disadvantaged youth an opportunity to learn new skills as part of an environmental team. This program worked well on the South Coast, achieving environmental aims while providing employment and skills to assist young people to find further work. We were very disappointed when the program was cut, and the consequences were dire for our youth and the environment. Another sound investment for government funding is public transport. Build a road and traffic will fill it. Then you need to build another road. Build a train line, and when the train is full, run the train again. Simple. Invest in electric vehicles, charging stations running off renewable technologies. The more renewable technology we invest in, the cheaper it becomes. Technology, think about it. Research through our universities, development by our small businesses, production in a new manufacturing industry. This ticks all the boxes. This is not the last time you will hear me harp on about sound financial management. To me, sound financial management goes hand in hand with good physical and mental health and a quality education for an individual, as it goes with social justice and environmental conservatism for the state. Through our sound management, we can ensure that there is social equity across the state. Triple bottom line, the idea of accounting for social, environmental, and economic aspects. How long since we've used that term? It disappeared completely. Well, it came and went with many other progressive ideas and then disappeared completely when the idea of running government like a business became the fashion. As an accountant, I appreciate the desire to run an operation on a sound financial basis to achieve good value for money results. But a government has many more responsibilities to its constituents than just the business model of simply making a profit without regard to consequences. In addition to managing the finances well, government has the obligation to look after the people and the environment. We have the responsibility to see that no one gets left behind, that people in our society less fortunate than ourselves are looked after and not disregarded by our own lack of empathy. People living with a disability, an addiction, an inadequate level of education, or victims of crime and family violence. A fair and just society cares for the disadvantaged. We also have the responsibility to see that our natural resources of air, water, land, and biodiversity are not further diminished by our greed and general consumptive behavior. To fulfill our responsibilities as a parliament, we must value the entirety of environmental, economic, and social outcomes. I will now venture into my electorate, the Southwest region, to demonstrate the interconnection of these values. I would guess that many of you here today have traveled to the Southwest and have seen the incredible beauty of the southern forests, the magnificent coastline, the productive farmland. You may have also noticed the diverse economic base of tourism, agriculture, mining, small cottage industries, and of course the extensive service industries supporting our communities. During my campaign, what I found most striking, however, was the incredible range of social situations. Farmers, foresters, miners, teachers, nurses, tour guides, vignerons, builders, bankers, bus drivers, and then of course volunteers, parents, students, and so on. You may have noticed in that list that not once did I have a need to refer to gender, ethnicity, religion, sexuality, or age. This is because we are all people first. We must be inclusive of all. Our role as members of Parliament is to look after people, the planet, and not necessarily profit. To put it simply, in government we work out what revenue we have available, what services and projects we need to address, and then work out how best to achieve this. So, as a voice for the Southwest region, I will be focused on creating opportunities for meaningful employment, supporting a transition to renewable energy industry careers, creating opportunities to replace logging in our native forests, supporting diversity and progressive development in our agricultural and horticultural industries, providing opportunities to engage young people in activities that encourage connection and hope for the future, and inspiring visitors to experience the diversity, prosperity, and community of our absolutely incredible region. Nowhere else I know of demonstrates the interconnectedness of social, environmental, and economic issues as does the Southwest. Most of our social life and economy stems from our natural environment. Our industries of farming, mining, and forestry follow directly from our landscape. Our tourism industry is best represented by the natural beauty of our forests, coastlines, and biodiversity. People in the Southwest are influenced daily by their natural environment. If not through their employment, then through their leisure time in fishing, camping, surfing, or trail bike riding. We cannot focus on economy without addressing the underlying support of our environment, nor try to fix the economy without addressing the inequity in our society. Focusing on the principles that guide the Greens, that is, the pillars that support our entire structure of policies, these tenets of our party: peace and nonviolence, ecological sustainability, participatory democracy, and social justice. These four concepts will guide my actions in this chamber. I will stand by these principles in each debate and decision we make, and I will use this guide to improve the well-being of the regional communities of the Southwest region. My first idea in the recent election campaign was to promote and repeat the three-word slogan, Greens support farmers. I did this because we do. And each time I said it, under my breath, I would finish the line with, because nobody else is. Through the past 8 years, the Department of Agriculture has become a shell of its former self, existing without the necessary research staff and resources to progress new ideas. Farmers and farming communities are vital to our state, and they were here long before mining and will continue to be long after. We cannot live without food. The Greens support healthy soil, access to clean water, small business, truth in labeling, the right to deny access for gas exploration, innovation in farming practices, and development of new products and new markets. Family farmers are being squeezed by banks, global corporations, trade agreements, the supermarket duopoly, and onerous legislation that makes small operations nearly impossible. We as a parliament need to support farmers and farming communities. 80% of our population lives in our metropolitan area, and they need to eat healthy, fresh, local food that improves our health and does not deplete our landscape. Good productive farmland has been chewed up and spat out by salinity, acidity, plantations, and residential encroachment. There are many issues facing farming communities. We just need to listen. It is not difficult, it is not expensive. Write legislation that supports regional areas, and people will choose to live there. We will continue to produce food and earn export income. Our farmers must have rights to refuse access for gas exploration or extraction. They must have the right to be compensated when genetically modified organisms escape from neighboring properties and contaminate their crops. And they must be able to receive a reasonable price for their produce. Agriculture is one of my portfolios, another is forestry. 20 years ago, when the old-growth forest debate was gaining traction, environmental groups were vocal to claim that jobs were being lost in forestry due to mechanization, not through conservation. But the protesters were tired with the blame for the lost jobs, and here we are again, trying to stop commercial logging in native forests. This time, financial reports clearly demonstrate that the state is losing millions of dollars propping up native forest logging through our Forest Products Commission. This time, environmental actions such as the WA Forest Alliance campaign, Forest for Life, is not simply saying close the forests. Rather, they're saying manage the forests. The forests can be used to create economic prosperity in the regions, develop industries such as beekeeping and truffle production, and build on ecotourism and agritourism to bring in visitors. Increase sawlog plantations on land other than prime agricultural land, and increase value adding to timber industries by supporting the craftwood markets and small mills who can obtain greater yields from the thinning of trees undertaken to improve the ecological health of the forest. We can think of better ways than the old ways. Research must be carried out to determine good management of our native forests, management that protects human populations, management that provides economic opportunities, and management to ensure healthy forests. Through my term, I will be addressing small business concerns as well. Small business is vital to the continued health and growth of the WA economy. And just as a side point, I was a small business owner in Sydney before coming here, so I do recognize some of the issues they go through. Not only is small business the largest employer, it is where new ideas are generated and where resilience is found in the face of changing climate. As a parliament, we must ensure that regulation brought in to curtail poor practices brought on by the greed of global corporations does not curtail the innovation and enthusiasm of new enterprises. We must look at leveling the playing field so that new enterprises have access to the same supports and subsidies that are offered to larger players. Small business, particularly for the Southwest region, is where our economic prosperity lies. One other portfolio of mine that doesn't quite fit with the finance and regional ones previously mentioned is sport and recreation. You may have noticed that the Greens don't often raise issues related to sport and rec. Many of us in the party take part in one sporting activity or another. But I have to say, I rarely hear conversations about who won the footy. That is, unless we're talking about our kids. The focus of sport seems more about getting out and getting active, not about winning or placing a bet. I'm not an active person. My fitness seems to have stuck with me from 35 years ago when I practiced martial arts to the level of black belt. It's likely I'd be a bit rusty now. These days, my sporting activity is pretty much limited to watching my son play cricket or my daughter play soccer. My interest in the sport and rec portfolio will be aimed predominantly in supporting community activities to get people of all ages out there and active. There is plenty of research to demonstrate that sports and other recreational activities support people to have healthy and meaningful lives. One other thing, I grew up with baseball, but I found my true love in sport with cricket. With my recent membership at the WACA, I hope to have many opportunities to sit back and enjoy the game, maybe even see some of you there. On the 25th of March, back to the election, when I realized I had won this seat, my first thoughts were concerned with the difference I would like to make. Working with the Labour government and drawing on my financial conservatism, I believed we would make a dramatic change to the well-being of Western Australians. I considered that my drive would be to assist the Labour government to enact good legislation that would carry us forward into a new era. All I aimed for was to make a positive difference. Then the penny dropped. Through numerous conversations, I came across the challenging realization that by making Labour look good and not seeking any personal or Greens recognition, my efforts would eventually undermine the Greens and thereby reduce our opportunities for continued electoral success and legislative change. And so I will lay my cards on the table. The Greens and Labour are not the same. Many of our ideas may overlap, but on many fronts, the Greens take the issue just a few steps further. Think, protecting the forests, protesting at Beeliar wetlands, supporting Indigenous recognition and protection of cultural heritage, tireless lobbying for NDIS and marriage equality. I love it when I see Greens policy become legislation, but I now understand how important it is that we get some credit for this. There will always be a need for a progressive party to lead or maybe drag the other parties forward. Without the Greens, the old parties could remain with the old ways, the things they have always done, the people they have always catered to. The two-party adversarial system of democracy that we follow ensures that one side is determined to make the government look bad. No wonder the general population is cynical about politics. Let us leave these practices to the other house. In this House, let us work together to achieve outcomes that benefit Western Australians. Leave the gaming and bickering to the Legislative Assembly. We can be better than that. So there you have it. I intend to make a difference, a positive difference, and my effort will make Labour look good. If all of us in here, in the Legislative Council, work together, we may even improve the public perception of Parliament and politicians. I'm expecting us to work for the good of all Australians, Western Australians, to protect what natural environment we have left and to manage our natural and economic resources sustainably so that our future and that of our children and grandchildren is pleasant, safe, and equitable. And so I ask you, my fellow legislative councillors, please join me in this dream for the future of Western Australia. Each of you need to consider the consequences of our actions. We have all come to this place with a hope of making a positive difference, hoping for a chance of being remembered for our contribution. We know that there is little money in the bank, so we must work with what we have to achieve the best outcome. As the mine construction boom petered off, we have had to refocus on our export industries of food, mineral resources, and tourism, in addition to our internal markets and services industries. Think of the mines construction as the icing on the cake. It may not be there any longer, but we still have the cake. Let's make the most of it and share it out equitably. During my campaign, I met Sister Mary, a nun at St. Bridget's Convent in Bridgetown. And Sister Mary, who volunteers in Perth working with homeless youths, told me, as she says to the kids, we can either argue over who has the biggest piece of cake, or we can sit down and enjoy our tea and cake and work out how we can manage things together to make them better. And that is what I propose we do. Rather than waste our time scoring points over one another, let's get stuck in and make things better. Work toward consensus for positive outcomes. Let's invest in the projects that reduce our ongoing costs or in those that will bring in future revenue. Now, one last thought to finish up. On the opening day of Parliament, in a response to the Governor's address, the Honourable Sally Talbot, MLC, spoke with regard to women and the challenges they face. I recognise and understand her comments. A demonstration of this inequity can be seen right here in this chamber. On this side of the room, made up of the Greens and Labour, there are 9 women and 9 men, or 50% representation of women. On the other side, there are only 2 women out of 18, or just over 10%. Neither of them are here. Personally, throughout my life, I have not felt serious gender-based discrimination, and I did not intend to accept it in this House. I take each person on their merits and afford them the respect I would offer to any individual, and I expect to be offered the same in return. Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.